Officially, good morning. Welcome to Market Watch Group Wednesday, Market Midpoint. A question was asked, which caused me to start the recording, that said, should we be sitting on our hands this morning until Powell speaks? Not necessarily. If you have a few things that are at or near some targets, you might scale down. You might say, you know what, I'm going to take some profits off the table in advance. Not everything necessarily, but you might take some. 2-to-1 on Amazon, 4-to-1. Excuse me. 4-to-1 on Amazon or in GE. Well done. Well done. Love it. I was actually mentioning yesterday that one of the things that I held off on GE was because there just was some sideways action going on in the industrial sector. However, GE is a leader, so yeah, good call on that one. I love it. Okay, let's talk about the disclaimers. As always, education, illustrative purposes only. Nothing should be considered a recommendation to buy or sell. We're not brokers, we're advisors. Every decision is made at your own risk. Today, opening analysis. We'll take a peek at how the week has gone relative to market posture. But we basically just drifted a little bit, a little higher, a little lower. Just drifting a little bit as we wait for the news to come out. And once again, for me, the news is not necessarily the number, but the subsequent. What's the verbiage? What does he say? What are they thinking? Looking forward. What concerns does the Fed have, et cetera, et cetera? All right. Mindset for open trades. Just like we said, today's an interesting day. We have a big binary event. If you have some solid gains, so if I had a 4-to-1 on GE, I might be thinking, even if it hasn't hit my target, I might take half of it off and say, I don't want to put my profits at risk if this market reacts badly to the news. That's the kind of thing that you'd be thinking about today. Is what are you going to close down and be comfortable carrying going into this potentially market motivating event? Setups. Yeah, I would be thinking, are there any setups that when the Fed is done, based on the reaction, that we want to go ahead and get in because we think there may be some follow-through momentum? That's a possibility. We'll look at our watch list for that. Lastly, trading plan progress. Trading rules is what we're working on. Building systems. All right, let's get started. Let me pull up okay, I was like, I don't know what this is a picture of. And then I realized it says air with the phone in the middle. All right, that's fair. I think I have they're on they're on iPhone 17. Oh my God. I think I have an 11. I don't know. I just don't care. When I get upgrades, I'm like, what can you give me that's free? Just give me a free phone. I don't want to have to pay. My kids are like, give me the best model. Stock futures stall. Of course they stall. They're actually up a little bit. 0.01 on the S&P. 0.15 on the Dow, flat at 0.02 on the NASDAQ, and 0.37 on the Russell. So there's the Russell. Moving small caps in anticipation of a cut, which will impact small caps the most. There you go. U.S. single-family housing starts and building permits drop in August. Oh, I wonder by how much. Let's look at the economic calendar. Housing starts is kind of down. We were at 1.43 million, expecting 1.37. So we were already expecting it to drop 60,000. And it actually dropped 120,000. Permits were expected to go up just a fraction, and they actually went down instead. Nobody's really paying attention to that. But if at any point we had like a sustained amount of weakness in the real estate market, that would be something that would eventually have a bearing. But right now, I just don't think anyone's paying attention to that. Don't forget that today, so we have at 2 p.m. Eastern, the decision. At 2:30 is the press conference. The market's likely to get an initial reaction. We're going to try to do an informal Fed watch party on Circle. We'll probably start a thread is what I'll do. Let me see. Let's decide how we're going to do this logistically. My thought is we'll go into... David's got the popcorn. My thought is... a new post. A new post that will... I'll call it Fed Watch Party. And then we'll just go in there and have a chat. In the comments. Yes, that's what it'll be. So we'll just all be in there putting our comments in and having a little conversation. So I will see you guys at Trading Chat later in the day. Should be exciting. What are you going to do to prepare for that? You're going to set up your charts on a 1 day, 1 minute. We'll start a few minutes before the announcement, and then you'll see what I mean. Like, you can feel the candles. So you're like, what are you talking about, Scott? What do you mean you can feel the candles? Just wait. Just come to the party and just watch and see as it really starts to accelerate in volatility. The candle sizes, you're like, whoa, that candle's so big. And then all of a sudden the next one's even bigger. You're like, what? It's interesting. Then it'll slow down and then reaccelerate around the press conference. So whatever the initial reaction is not what I would, now it could, but it's not what I would expect to hold. I would say then we have to see and listen to what is said. To kind of finish it off. So, all right. What else? That's today. Tomorrow's news, jobless claims. Now you can see, I don't remember that happening. Let me go back a little bit. We didn't really talk about this, because we were looking at the CPI. But the jobless claims, 237 was what we had last time. 236 is what we were expecting. And then we jumped into 263. I'm actually kind of shocked that we didn't talk about this last week. But that's a early flag of warning for us. When it jumps above 250, we're like, oh, it's not catastrophic yet. But if I got two more of these, so today and then next time, if I have three in a row that are above 250, that's when I'm gonna first start expecting to see maybe a negative number in jobs, which we haven't really seen. When I say negative, I mean within the context of non-farm payrolls, which would be first Friday of October, looking backwards at the September numbers. So that 263 was concerning. Now, if this week we drop back below, it's a reset for me. 3 weeks in a row above 250. That's kind of the trigger. That's kind of the trigger that I'm looking at, is if I get 3 weeks in a row, that's one. So if we're expecting 240 and we get 255, 260 again, that's two. If the next week it drops back to 240, 230, we're like, oh, okay, just a blip. But if it gives us 3 in a row, that's the concern. That's the concern. Manufacturing survey looking for a slight uptick, which is interesting, right? Because the tariffs are all about, we want to reshore manufacturing, and yet for 6 months we've had regression in manufacturing. So whatever the hope is for manufacturing from the tariffs, the data does not support that it's having that impact. If that's what one of the objectives are. Friday, what do we have? One Fed speech that we're really less concerned about, simply because we'll be hearing from the entire apparatus today. Okay, there it is. There it is. Let's take one last look here at where we ended up. At one point, the hope, I wouldn't say the probability because it was pretty low, but the hope for a jumbo cut got up to like 15%. And then I think people realized, no, that's just not going to happen. So here we are. We have a basically a done deal expectation of a 1/4 point drop. And then the question is, do they give news that maintains a dovish stance, dovish meaning likely to continue being accommodative? Okay, what else? Okay, that's it. Let's go look at some charts. Let's go look at some charts. Apple continuing to push a little bit. It's actually going to get on up to the old high. So this is one that if Apple was a trade you had put on, you might think, you know what? I'm going to actually take some profits and tighten some stops in case this is where a regression comes. ADM got some recovery yesterday, just kind of pausing today. I'm already at half. I scaled the loss on this one, so there you go. Amazon just sort of pausing a little bit here, a little bit of a regression. APH, a flag in a stiff wind. That's what we called this one. So some of these, like this, my thought is, you know what? If we got even a little bit of a pullback from here, I would actually be thinking, cut this candle in half. That would be an amazing entry in a couple of days if that's what we get on a pull. So if the market retraces from the Fed activity, you shouldn't be like, oh, there we go. Now the market's going to drop. No, we're not. That's not how we see this market. We're still at 5.25. If anything, we've been looking at our score increasing more than decreasing. And so for me, looking at this, I would say that if we get a retracement, it's likely to be setting stocks up for us. Okay, and that's one of them. I would love another trade on APH. That was a good one. AVGO in consolidation, right? In consolidation with plenty of room for it to come on back. That's a second one. Looks exactly the same way. Great. AXP. I was actually thinking about this, but after the Fed, not before the Fed. Saying to myself, this could be just a little bit of a hiccup. So if you're in something financial, there you go. BAC, same thing. BTI may be setting up here. I said this one could be that same kind of a thought process. I moved my line and look how that's setting up. So if I see something in there, that's a possibility for same day for a trade that might emerge from today's activity. BTI, let's keep an eye on that. Still don't know what's going on with BYON. I'm actually going to delete it because I'm sick of it being there. Oh, now it showed up. Wait, what? Oh, it showed up for a half a second. Nah, you're gone. We can't mess with that. I'm out. You're out. Citi. So Citi was one where my immediate target was closer to 103. I've got some good gains. I'm likely to take half of them to lock them in and then see what happens with the Fed. So for those who are saying, what do we do? Well, for me, this is an alert. The alert came here. We had to sit through just a 2-day hiccup, and then it was back and moving again. It's made some move. It's making some money. I don't want to put it all at risk in case we do have a negative reaction. So I'll probably pare down a little bit. Caterpillar. Caterpillar. Looking quite strong. It wasn't actually GE. Sorry, I think I said GE that I was thinking about Caterpillar, but same thing. I didn't take it because I had seen some sideways action in the industrial section, but I gotta say, there's some good ones. Trust the trend. CCJ, tweezer hold. We talked about this funky little pattern yesterday. Holding somewhere near the low now. Yeah, I don't know. It was basically just like going sideways and then all of a sudden popped up and then it's like, yeah, no, we changed our minds. It's sitting right back at that level. Oh, CELH. CELH is one that I'm thinking could be on a hiccup. Right? Had a gap entry that fell apart but held support. This is one that I think could end up moving post-Fed. So I'll add that to BTI. I think this is considered staples. Consumer staples. Drinks, yes. So consumer staples, like BTI is another one, could definitely be where if the market has a negative reaction to the Fed, could actually see positivity come. CLS, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's a bullish looking stock, but it's just kind of like chopping around up at those highs. Hard to discern a signal out of that. Here's Capital One holding up. Here's Coinbase. Okay, so if you're a fan of Coinbase, what I would say is, you could see this as enough. And if we get a higher low coming out of here, then there could be a trade developing inside of that. Cisco. Cisco just won't go right, won't go wrong. Just kind of hanging out there. Starting to bleed a little bit from time. We'll see what happens. Delta. Okay, Delta looking interesting. Kind of went sideways at this resistance for a while, then finally had a retracement, held the 50. Looking to see if we can bounce off the 50. Put it on the maybe list for sure. DoorDash continuing to move. Kind of a surprise. Dow's up 0.5%. Where's that come from? EA. Okay, so for me, EA started this way, then it turned this way, then it busted up out. So that's 0.1 for me. That's 0.1 here. Getting to this new high, 0.2. Now what do I need? Somewhere out here would be 0.3. If it pulls back and turns, there it is. That's where something developed. The reversal pattern that I tend to look for. Expedia. Overextended. It's got a flag. It's got to pull back. I need this. I need something that I can latch onto that gives me the ability to produce a positive reward to risk ratio. Ford. Possibly on a hiccup. Possibly. Futu. Yes. Right? And you might be thinking, is that a consolidation? No, I'm still okay with this. I want you to notice where it is. It's above the 50. Old highs, old resistance becoming new support. If this holds in here and then gives like an actual turn signal, boop, this thing pops back up. Yeah, well, look at the last time when it did that. Right? In fact, last time was even steeper, but when it turned out of it and it gave us the entry, good looking trade followed. Real good looking trade followed. So I would say, yeah, let's keep our eyes peeled. Add that to the list. Where is Futu anyways? Let me look at Futu is financials. Okay. All right. I had no idea. Did anybody know that? Did you guys know what they did? I had no idea. You're like, really, Scott? Really? 'Twas a mystery. GE on a pause, right? So it made this move. It caught. Now what? Now be thinking about, do I take some? Do I keep some? Do I take it all? Gold on a pause. Google on a pause. Goldman still looks quite good, but I need all that to pull back. I need Google to pull back, but I want to trade Google again. I need Goldman to pull back. Hood. Hood looks all right. Hood looks like something could develop here. I've got my floating line out here. Like, is there something developing that I think looks interesting? Okay. Howmet. Overextended. If the market is driven on a retracement by the announcement, this is one. Like, add this to the list of, I've got a lot of room. I wouldn't want to trade this now where it's overextended. Got a lot of room for retracement in here for this thing to come back down and then turn and give us something out in the later this week, next week type of a scenario. Already in which one? Helmet? Hood? I might have missed when that comment came in, Sandy. IBM. IBM looks very enticing. If this holds up, so there's the flag. Pull, flag, turn. People say, well, it's turning and it's already overbought. I don't want you to get into the habit of seeing overbought as a bad thing. Yeah? Overbought means there's what? Lots of buyers. That's never a bad thing for bullish. Lots of buyers? Yeah, sounds good to me. Well, right? This is a great example of overbought continuing to go overbought. Volume is low. But what does that mean? Whose volume is low? Versus what was the volume prior? So in here we got buyer's volume, then it turns to seller's volume. So remember that we want to, volume being low is also not negative. If low volume is when the sellers are when the sellers have the floor, what it tells me is there's not many of them, and I don't expect it to keep dropping. My expectation is for the volume to come in, hopefully, after I get in, and it accelerates to the upside. So I'm okay with volume being low as long as it's indicative of sellers' volume being low. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Is open interest a good indicator? Open interest is a good indicator of option liquidity. If I have a lot of open interest, the corollary I would expect is tight spreads between bid and ask, which that's super important. If you were to look at 10, 15 trades a month, 12 times a year, and then you just looked at something like if I was paying 15 cents in spreads versus 5 cents in spreads. Even if they're $3, $4 options, right? It doesn't 15 cents on a $3 option, that's 5%. But 5 cents is only 2%. So that's 10 cents. Well, that's $10. If I'm doing 4 contracts, that's $40. In and out, that's $80. 10 times a month, that's $800. 12 times a year, that's 10 grand, right? That's a difference maker, or at least it could be. So that's a reason why I'm a liquidity snob. I don't like trading options that don't. I'm willing to as a one-off, not as a rule, not as a common practice. So most stocks that I'm going to watch are going to have tight spreads as a general rule of thumb. Intel, nothing for me there, but I'll keep watching it. IWM. What should Delta be? David's thrown out some questions today. What should Delta be? So Delta is a Greek, and the Greeks represent option behavior. How will this option behave based on a change in an underlying pricing variable? What are the underlying pricing variables that I'm paying attention to? Stock price, time, implied volatility, to a much lesser extent interest rates. But delta is how much will my option behave relative to stock price changes. Theta is how much will it change relative to time changes. Time only goes one way, right? Delta price can go up or down. Time only goes one way. Implied volatility, Vega tells me how will I change based on volatility changes. Okay, so what does that mean? None of those are a measure of quality. So a zero point 0.7 delta is not better than a 0.5 or better than a 0.3. Because if 0.7 is better than 0.5, then 0.8 is better than 0.7. And if that's the case, then 0.9 is better than 0.8. And then all of a sudden we're buying so deep in the money that we're sacrificing some of the benefits that options can offer us. So for me, delta is more a byproduct than it is a analyzing variable. A lot of times I'm out of the money. You guys notice that, right? A lot of times I'm out of the money on my options, and people are like, "Oh, you only have a delta of 0.3." That's one variable. If somebody buys a delta of 0.7 and they buy 3 contracts, their net delta for that trade is 210. That trade will behave at the beginning like 210 shares. If I buy 7 contracts with a delta of 0.3, guess what? My net delta is also 210. Who do you think paid more? 3 contracts of 0.7 or 7 contracts of 0.3? For the sake of time, I'll give you the answer. The person who bought the in-the-money options and bought 3 of them paid more than I did. So I got the same thing. Now here's the other thing. As the stock goes the right direction, those 3 contracts can grow. 210 to 240 to 250, 260. It starts to slow down because at that point, 260, 270, you're at a 90 delta. It gets very slow. My delta can go from 210 to 300 to 350 to 400 because I have 7 contracts. Mine has the ability to get to 700. Is it ever going to get there? Not likely, but if I catch the move that I'm hoping for, I will get an acceleration with more contracts that the in the money wouldn't. You might be thinking, whoa, why would I ever buy? Well, am I going to lose more in time decay? Yes, 100%. That's the pawn, right? That's something I really try to emphasize for people is when you're trading, you should know what your pawns are. You're sacrificing something somewhere to get what it is you're looking to get. So make sure you know what it is. Otherwise, you're sacrificing something unknown. I recognize time is a little bit worse off for out of the money than it is in the money. But what do I get? I get gamma. And gamma, and you might be thinking, gamma? What is this, the Hulk? Yes, I want a Hulk option that has lots of gamma power. Gamma is the ability for delta to accelerate. So, good question. I hope that wasn't like a too deep in the weeds answer. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's keep going. Yes, of course. Great questions. Levi. Okay, Levi, you son of a gun. Little pause on the second day, but starting to move now as we expected. Moving on up. Nothing to do but watch and hope. It keeps going. Not enough there for me to want to take it, though. I'm just going to look for this thing to move through the Fed and see what happens. Sometimes you're just going to carry a few things. Lumentum, possibly moving into a flag. LVS. LVS was a dud. I took my loss. I gave it the opportunity that I could, but not much more, and I'm all set with that. Meta. A little bit of a pullback today. We'll see. Maybe a trade developing here. Morgan, like the rest of the financials, is looking pretty strong now, which means if we had a pullback derived from today's Fed announcement, it's going to set it up. I'm okay with that. I'm not worried about the Fed having a negative reaction on the market. I have plenty of nice looking trades that will start setting up as a direct result. Now, if it's like a huge, big volume, then it's a little more concerning, but even still, we have plenty of room to process the pullback. Microsoft looks okay. What are we seeing here? We're seeing one of these extended consolidations, and then you're like, well, wait, we kind of broke it. We took out this high. So now if this thing can stay above this line and give us something here, that becomes a higher low, and that becomes a possibility for us. Absolutely. Micron. No. It was a freight train, and now it's just out of reach. Right? If you saw this, you're thinking to yourself, that looks like it was a hell of a party. And the reason I know is because I rolled up and the cops are already there. People are already leaving. Like, this party's over. There's no reason to walk up here. Netflix. It's too sideways for me. Now, I want you to notice what happened here is we had the initial. We had step 1. We had step 2. We broke the line. We got to a new high. And what were we looking for? We were looking for step 3 to happen there. Right? And what did it do? Fell all the way back down. And now what? It's a reset. It's got to do it again. And it's got to hold this time. For me, right? It's actually back in this. So there's nothing here for me on Netflix. NOC. Ooh, that's a maybe. That's a maybe. What might help? I would say Netflix is maybe even more than a couple of days away for me, actually. Northrop Grumman would be a maybe, but it would have to have a little bit bigger hike and ashy for me right now. Then I'd be like, okay. But that looks like it's setting up. NVIDIA, yes. Hold. If it holds and turns, now we've got something. You can see this pattern in the works. It was coming down. It busted up out of it. Now what? Now, as long as it can hold at a higher low, this is viable on the turn. Hold the 50, hold the break, and then let's see if this thing keeps moving again. That's a yes for me. Not a yes for a trade, yes for a setup. PGY, overextended, nothing there, but a pullback would help. PLTR, same thing as NVIDIA. This little pullback is setting up what's next. So if the market reacts slightly negatively, we have another candidate. QQQ, overextended. Plenty of room for a pullback to still be bullish. Roblox, pulling back. Reddit. Okay, Reddit, come on down. Come on down. I would say it starts here. I would probably say anywhere in there. Any pullback that happens in this area will be fantastic. Love it. Looking good. RF, maybe, setting up. Regional Bank. Rocket Lab. Yeah, if you were someone who held it and it gave you a little bit more this morning, that was a crazy sell-off yesterday. I mean, it gave everything back. It had this beautiful, like, out of nowhere just pop, and then it gave it all back. I want you to look at that. If you didn't enter until late on this day, it gave it all back. Minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of time. You would have been negative at the end of that day. That would have been tough. I'm glad I wasn't a part of that. Silver pulling back a little bit. Okay. SoFi needs to flag if it's going to give us a trade. Another one that a regression caused by today's Fed announcement would set up a new trade. Ooh, 10-cent music, making the move. So if this is one that this was an alert back here, and then it failed. Now, as it failed, I think some people may have held the whole time. And if you did and you're still in it, I hope that the option persisted. This might have been one where you re-entered, exited, and then re-entered. And if you re-entered, it had a little bit of hiccup again, but now it's starting to move. We got a good 4.5% on this one today. We were looking up something about them yesterday, and it said something about dim sum bonds. I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Okay. Tesla possibly flagging at the end of the Elon Musk trade. It's a cult stock. Like, it can move like a cult stock. I said I don't trade it, but I know a lot of people like to watch it, so I'm watching it for sure. TSM looks bullish. We're looking at NVIDIA. We're looking at PLTR. We're looking at, not looking at Micron. Micron's overextended. Yeah, there's some possibilities setting up in there. Ooh, Uber pulled back today. So went from okay, pulled back. There may be, if you have an option expiring coming up this week, this might give you the opportunity to roll it. If you have one expiring on the 19th, it may give you the ability to buy that one back now that the time is almost gone, and then roll out and say, hey, I'm going to go to 96 2 weeks from now, a little bit more money coming in. Bullish dollar index down a bit. Visa down a bit. If you're wondering if I think this is a potential trade, I do not. I need more. I still feel like this is in consolidation. What is our VIX telling us today? Okay, so here's the deal. We did get a higher low, right? The VIX this week is poised for a drop. That was a higher low relative to this. But if we stall here, and then let's say it stalls again today, probably more like this though, and then the next day it turns over, that could easily be called a lower high, and that would then we would minus 0.25 for the higher low, then we would plus 0.25 for the lower high, and of course, as math does, these would cancel each other out, and we would leave our score the same. Could be interesting. And lastly, Walmart. Yeah, look at Walmart. I thought Walmart was going to hit some resistance here. It's kind of popping through already. I was thinking this would produce a trade. The fact that it's busting through means there's really nothing here, right? I'm not like, I'm going to trade a breakout on Walmart. I'm not. And that's the list. We have some things that are moving. We have some things that have topped out. If you have gains, think about if you want to pare them down and keep some of it before the announcement. If the announcement comes back good, market should move and you should have some things on. If the market comes back bad, you'll think about, do I unwind those things? And then that pullback will set up a number of new trades. A whole new bullish window will set up if we get a pullback from today. So what's the advice at the end of the day? Be water, my friends. Be water. Adapt quickly. Try to recognize what it is now, adapt to it, and then move forward. Don't forget, around 11:50 to 11:55 Mountain Time, that's 1:50 to 1:55 Eastern Time, pop into the trading chat on Circle. for our Fed watch party, and we'll have some comments and talk about how interesting it is to watch the price action shift and move and react. Good times for good traders. Thanks, everybody. It's good to see you all. If you don't show up there, I won't see you till tomorrow night. Glenn will be here tomorrow morning. Have a great rest of your day, as always. Happy trading.